In this lesson, we are going to look at conversation analysis. So whenever we hear about conversation analysis or chatbot, the first thing comes into our mind is ChatGPT or Cloud or Gemini or any other LLMs we have seen are on the local LLM. The thing here is that a lot of those models are quite big. These models we are going to discuss are very small and purpose-built. In my view, there is always room for purpose-built models. There will be always huge models like LLMs and things out there, which takes huge footprint. But these models are very purpose-built, small, and serve the exact same purpose for what it is designed for. But you will see, and you will be thinking throughout this session, why can't I do this in something like ChatGPT, if you're familiar with it? So the answer is these models are purpose-built and very small. Azure AI Language Services. In this lesson, we are going to look at the basics of conversation analysis. It is kind of similar to the custom vision we have seen in the computer vision session. So what we are going to do is we are going to train the model with some information. So to introduce language service is all about, we have a text input. This could be any text information. It could be chat. It could be a page from a book. It could be manually entered data in the code. Ultimately, we have some kind of text. That is the input to the language services. So we'll see how the endpoint is getting created. It's very similar to the ones we have already seen. So this is the language services. Input is text and output is always some form of JSON. So pretty much this is the overview of language services. So we will see a couple of different services within language services or models within language services. But all in all, this is what it does. Text processing. If you ask large language model like ChatGPT, is it a language service? Technically speaking, it is yes, but we will not be discussing OpenAI services here. There's a separate lesson for that coming up. Basically, these are small models, not very large models. Now, inside this, first we are going to look at conversation analysis. That's what we are going to look in this. So conversation analysis, again, very useful model we're having. Basically, can be used for creating support assistants and things like that, chat-based support assistants. So the idea is you have an input text like this, and inside that input text, you can have different types of parameters and intent. So you are giving a command to the system, for example, like Alexa or the Google Home or a simple chat assistant like Siri or anything like that. It doesn't have to be voice. In this case, it is not voice, it is text. So you are taking an input and doing something according to that. So now the text can contain different instructions, different ask. So there is this concept of intent, then the concept of entities or entity. Then there is concept of utterance or text. So let's see what is each one of these items before we get into the code and things like that. So the intent can be any action to be performed by a text. For example, book a flight. Book a flight to India from Australia. So book a flight to India from Australia. So that is the text we are trying to understand or analyze. So in this case, the intent is book a flight. So that is the idea behind it. Now, there are different entities. One is the source and the destination. There could be more entities like the date, for example, on 25th of December. Then there could be more entities like time at 12:30 p.m. So entities are like the function parameters, if you know what I mean, from a programming perspective. So intent is like the action to be performed, the actual function, and the entities are like parameters to that function. Different entities will be there. Like that, we can have many intents and many entities. And we need to create a training sample or training data for the AI. Just like we did in the case of custom vision, we have to train this model. Here also we have to train this model using different intent and entities. using custom created utterance. So the whole thing is called utterance. So what is utterance? Utterance is a whole statement. Book a flight to India from Australia on 12th of December at 12:30 p.m. So this is a whole utterance. The whole thing is called utterance. This is what the end user is going to give to the model. Now what we are going to give as the training data. So we have the utterance, we have the intent within that utterance, then we have the entities, different entities, time, date, source, destination, all kind of things. Now we need to create multiple different possible utterance. The same statement can be in a question form. For example, can you book a flight to India from Australia on 25th of December? I would like to have that booked around 12:30 p.m. So that's an equivalent statement to this particular utterance, but that's a different utterance. Also, another way to say this is, please book a flight to India from Australia on 25th of December at 12:30 p.m. So it's a different sentence, but same information. So as you can see, in all cases, the intent remains the same. The parameters or the entities remains the same, source and destination, but the utterance is different. The sentence itself is slightly different. So like that, we need to create multiple utterance for a particular intent. Also, we need to put some additional fields for these parameters. For example, this is a location, this is a location, this is a date, this is a time. We need to mark all those things for the AI to understand. Now we can create more utterance for that intent with a different source and destination, with a different date and time. Book a flight to America from Japan on 18th of Jan at 1 a.m. Different time, different place, all different but same intent. So again, different utterance with different parameters or different entities. So this is very common in a chat scenario. For example, a support assistant. You're creating a virtual support assistant. This use case is very easily achieved. So before we get into the studio and code, let's reiterate what we've been looking at. So we have a set of utterances or text. So these are the input text, different input text, and there is corresponding intent, intent 1, intent 2, intent 3, and so forth, and the parameters or entities. So all this thing has a one-to-many, many-to-many, many-to-one relationship. So an intent can have multiple utterances and multiple entities. So the idea is to have maximum number of utterances in your training data, all the potential words and sentences your customer can ask you in the training data. And what we're going to do, we're going to create a JSON file with all these utterances and corresponding indents and parameters, and we are going to give that to the model and train the model like we did before with these utterances and corresponding intent and parameters. Now, after the training, what happens? We can give our input text and the model will take the text and it'll check if it is similar to any of these we have given here, and it converts to intent and the parameters from these particular text. This doesn't have to be exactly same as these ones. The model understands the meaning of these utterances ultimately. And the final output from the model in the prediction phase is nothing but the intent and the parameters or entities. So that is what the model is going to give us. Based on this, we can take further action in our code. For example, book a ticket or respond back to the user. For example, user is asking what is the time. We can respond back that to the user. We are going to see that example. Also, if we don't know what to do from the user input, we can say that we don't understand. It is not part of our training data. We can do that. So we are going to see that as well. So this is the training data we are giving to the model, and we are going to predict a similar input and get the intent and parameter out of it. That's what we are going to do. So we have seen the concept of conversation analysis. So like I said, it's not a replacement for large language models or ChatGPT or Cloud or anything like that. But it is more like a Google Home or Alexa replacement, or you can make products like that. So that's the idea here. And in future, we will see OpenAI services as well. in which we will be using LLM for similar things. So again, like I mentioned, these models are small, cost is less, footprint is less. So that's the highlight of this particular chat agent we are looking at. Now, let's see the code running.